Talk about the portrayal of women
by Pilgrims Pass,
in popular
Forgotten
media
Femininity of
has been done to
Arwen.
death at this point, including by myself in some of my videos. But the focus is always on how the latest silly Hollywood product got it wrong, or on how strong warrior women were portrayed correctly in this or that franchise without coming across as a stereotypical jock with boobies. But in this video, I just want to appreciate femininity itself by analyzing Arwen from the Lord of the Rings. In the book, but also the movie, since she's given less time and narrative space in Tolkien's original text. But the movie did a great job of writing new stuff for her to do and to be, while still being completely loyal to the spirit of Tolkien's vision and the archetype that Arwen manifests. She's an all too neglected feminine archetype these days.
So this one's by Vito. Vito is the one.
One that I actually tried my best in exploring within my webcomic called Fractal Fables that you guys can check out on Webtoons for free.
Nice.
We'll leave the link down in the description if you're interested. All you have to do is click and start reading it. It's that easy. Though I warn you, the first 5 episodes are a bit trippy, but things start making more sense from there. Anyway, they almost did Arwen.
So it's like Umineko and Higurashi
dirty in Peter Jackson's original trilogy by making Arwen hijack Eowyn's archetype and having her show up with a sword in Helm's Deep in the second movie, to go all Xena the Warrior Princess on some green Uruk-hai tushy, which would have been very silly for several reasons. Fortunately, the internet was already around back then and able to convince them otherwise, since this was before the big studios and the fans fell into a Chechenian blood feud with each other, and the studios were open to fan complaints. However, some of those douchebags made Liv Tyler cry, which is atrocious. Leave her alone! To be honest, the whole presence of elven archers at the Battle of Helm's Deep in the Two Towers movie diminishes that climactic idea of the fight for the future of...
You know, guys, I need to rewatch Lord of the Rings because I don't fucking remember. Because I've only seen them maybe twice, and both times I saw them was many years ago. Once being in theaters. So I don't really remember what happens, to be honest. I might go watch it with my mom. So I have no fucking clue, like, what happens anymore. I don't even remember what happens. All I remember was that Frodo was a little bitch. That's all I remember. He was like Shinji from Neon Genesis Evangelion. He was a little bitch.
Men, and the last stand feeling that was present in the books. The victory of Helm's Deep seemed like a miracle when only young and aging peasants managed to hold out until Gandalf arrived. Having Arwen fighting there would have just made it worse, and it would derail the impact of Eowyn's rise as a warrior to defend her people in the third movie. Also, I can't imagine Elrond throwing his daughter into that massacre. Plot-wise, it just wasn't the right decision. From what I gather, Peter Jackson and crew almost did this with her character because they felt it was the best way to flesh her out more, as well as the easiest way to develop her romance with Aragorn. He's a warrior, after all, so having her fight alongside him was a lazy way to do it. But I also think that for a moment, the producers and writers fell into the trap of devaluing the simple and conventional, yet immensely powerful, femininity that Arwen represents. If Aragorn,
they love doing that.
Gandalf, and Frodo represented the 3 idealized aspects of
That's actually the irony of feminism, is that it devalues femininity for some reason. It's like we got to the point where like things were becoming more equal, and then femininity was like, yeah, you know what's actually bad? Femininity. And so we went like full on, like femininity turned into devaluing anything that women represent and valuing everything that men represent. And then saying that if women want to achieve a state of equality and a state of being as good as men, that they have to do the stuff that men do, which is ridiculous, actually. It's ridiculous, and it's again, it devalues things that women are really, really good at and things that women like to do. They've chosen that to be what signifies as weak.
Masculinity, where Frodo is the common good man who bears the burden and is the most accessible ideal for normal guys like us to emulate. Then I think that Galadriel, Eowyn, and Arwen are the idealized aspects of femininity.
Actually, a really good way to illustrate this is it's kind of like healing in games. Like a lot of the times, like there's this kind of notion that like, oh, between like gamers, right, where there'll be a person that only plays healer and they're really good at playing healer, and they'll tell them, oh yeah, you suck, so you play the girlfriend class, is what they'll say, right? But in reality, a good healer is necessary. People really value DPS in games. Like they always want to play DPS because the DPS is the most flashy, it's the most showy. But you need somebody to actually keep everyone alive, where it's an essential role, exactly. And it's been devalued. Kind of again, like the best way to explain it is like how people do see healer players as being shit, when in reality, it's not really that easy.
And I believe that Arwen is the most accessible archetype for younger women, while the authoritative maternal archetype of Galadriel is more for older women, and Eowyn is the archetype for women that are shit out of luck. I met plenty of women like her in Ukraine last year. They're amazing and admirable, but it's not a position you want to fantasize about being in, believe me. Which reminds me of that War of the Rohirrim anime movie that will probably have...
I haven't seen this. Have you guys seen it? I was gonna watch it in theaters, and then I ended up not having the time to watch it. I just told my mom we watch it like later. But yeah, I haven't seen this.
Come out by the time this video gets uploaded. I legit forgot this thing existed until I started writing the script again. But that right there is a good example of our culture overemphasizing the warrior maiden archetype over the other expressions of heroic femininity. Don't get me wrong, I love me some warrior maidens.
Me too.
But as a wrinkly green swamp dweller in Dagobah once said, wars make not one great. The kind of subtle but immensely powerful force that Arwen represents is undervalued at our own loss as a culture, in my opinion. Arwen is a fascinating character despite barely being in the books. Her influence behind the scenes is what helps shape the destiny of an entire civilization. You see, there are three main heroic archetypes for women in these epic stories. If the heroic archetypes for men are the king, the hero, and the pilgrim, for women it's the queen, the warrior maiden, and the guide, which is Arwen's archetype, similar to Ariadne in Greek mythology, in the story of the Minotaur, where she guides Theseus through the labyrinth so that he can slay the monster. Another famous example
It's also like the muse as well, like the person that inspires the hero, right? The person that the hero is inspired by and wants to fight for.
Be the Lady of the Lake in the King Arthur stories, where this ethereal fairy woman gives the destined king his mythical sword, which is exactly what Arwen does in the Peter Jackson movie version. Great choice and very Arthurian, although in the Ralph Bakshi movies that was made years earlier, she doesn't appear at all. I don't think she was even mentioned. Oh man, what a shitty movie that was. Quite the trip, but I absolutely loved it when I was 6 years old though. Arwen barely appears in the books not because she's not important, but because of the sheer scale of the story, which means that tons of it must be left out to the appendices at the very back of the book. That's where her love story with Aragorn is written. But she was given more of a character arc in the movie than in the book. But the movie only achieved this by cutting out entire characters in order for her to have more space in the narrative, which I think was a good decision for the movie. Her love is a big motivating factor for one of the main plot lines about the return of the king.
They do this a lot in like when they do like a big fantasy novel adaptations. They get like kind of combined characters because it's hard to justify to have like two separate characters and doing like casting and like dressing them up and giving them screen time when like they both don't matter as much. So like sometimes it's kind of like if you combine them, then they become a little bit more substantial in the story.
The entire third book. In the books and films, Arwen guides Aragorn to his destiny, weaving his banner that he uses to rally an entire civilization around, and serving as his guiding star to the throne of Gondor. In the movies, she nudges him to overcome his insecurities. Well, in the books, Aragorn is less insecure, but can only be with her after he becomes king. So in many ways, he becomes king to be worthy of her. Many would think that this is a passive role on Arwen's part, that she's just the prize for a man to glorify himself, that she has no identity of her own.
The funny thing is like like this whole thing with like there being different types of like female characters that are kind of a part of the major part of like a fantasy story, that's kind of been around forever. Really, like if you think back really like to like even like old anime and stuff, you always had that type of thing where there was like like the kind of like the leader queen type of a character. There was always like the the oracle, the muse, like the priest, that kind of a thing. And then there was like the kind of like warrior, and then you had like sort of some people that were like kind of in between. And that was in everything. You had that in Lodos too, right? With, for instance, with like Nis and Deedlit, right? Being like different archetypes within fantasy. And it really does feel like a lot of more modern stuff just completely eliminated like all other types of women. And that all we care about now is like, oh yeah, are they a warrior? Like are they like literally like are they literally just like a male protagonist? And it's like all of the types of roles that women filled in stories have just been eliminated. And in some cases replaced by like just these kind of empty husk of characters. A lot of times they add men into these positions where women used to fill, but then they also make them, they simultaneously also just make them an empty husk of a character where they're literally pointless.
etc. But I don't see it that way. For one thing, Aragorn is defined by his relationship with Arwen, just as much as she is defined by him. That's what happens when two people love each other. It's not that Arwen is the passive object to Aragorn's active character journey. It's that Arwen is a force that pulls and Aragorn is a force that pushes. She pulls him along to his destiny, and he pushes forward against the odds. Their relationship feels like two forces of history interacting. This archetypal relationship between the queenly feminine and the kingly masculine characters, common in what Tolkien would call a fairy story, can, and often is, cynically interpreted as malicious for both genders in this day and age. Not only do people accuse this trope of turning women into trophies for a patriarchal quest, but others of the more red pill persuasion claim that it's a quintessential example of female privilege, where she just sits in a corner looking pretty while the guy risks his life in war and extremely difficult feats of courage, only to then give her everything that he worked so hard for in the day of their marriage, only so that she can rob him of half of it after she divorces his ass and takes the kids. Yeah, both genders are capable of cynicism and feeling victimized by the traditional
Thanks for the follows, you guys.
but
Thank you.
insisting on a cynical interpretation of reality can take the joy out of anything. Oh, you like eating eggs? That's chicken menstruation that you're eating, you sicko. Oh, you like the smell of flowers? You're sticking your nose into plant genitals, you pervert! Arwen is more of an archetypal force than an actual character in Tolkien's original books. She's the quintessential fairy princess, and her presence is always felt, but mostly unseen, keeping Aragorn grounded to his path, like gravity in a way. I think the reason for this is just the nature
The sad
of the
thing
book
too is
themselves.
like just in not even that long ago, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, like all of the girls wanted to be Disney princesses. That's just how it was. That's why you have little girls wanting to go to like Disneyland and like dress up as like the different whoever their favorite princess is, right? And it's like now we had to turn like every Disney princess into like a strong woman.
It's an epic adventure book, and Arwen is a character more at home in the royal courts and palace halls, or in the green meadows, singing to the animals and making the birds land on tree branches close to her as she passes. Her place is not walking through the mud and dodging arrows with the boys, but characters like Arwen can be the center of their own stories too. In fact, the magical princess archetype is technically what built the multi-billion-dollar Disney empire. Snow White, Cinderella, and even
I was literally just talking about that.
Belle from Beauty and the Beast. It's not that characters like Arwen must be condemned to the background and not have a voice and be barely developed as a character. Sometimes to be overlooked entirely. In fact, the opposite happens in most popular retellings of the fairy tales that we enjoy these days. The heroic warrior prince archetype that Aragorn represents is barely at all a character that has any speaking lines in the classic Disney films of Snow White and Cinderella. You could actually cut him off entirely from Snow White and not lose much. Why not have Grumpy the Dwarf get the girl instead? Our short brothers deserve happiness too, don't you know? You can argue that those handsome dream dudes are a mere prize reward for those ladies remaining kind and virtuous. Dude just shows up and takes her to his castle. It really just depends on what story you're telling. But I am glad that they did give Arwen Undomiel, daughter of Elrond, half-elven, some actual bloody character development in the movie. And her psychic connection to Aragorn as she keeps him moving forward in dreams was fantastic. Some people find it cheesy, but I bet that's because they never have been in love, in a relationship so deep that you dream about each other. I have, and it's magical. Look, all I'm saying is I think Arwen is a great example of a change in the adaptation, but one that still remains loyal to the original work. They might have changed her character from the book to the movie, but they did not change her archetype, like they did with Galadriel in Rings of Power. That's why we constantly rewatch those movies.
My favorite archetype of like girl character is kind of a mix. I like the girl characters that can fight, but they don't really, they're more like watching the back for like the hero. They're watching like the hero's back, you know? They're kind of like they're supporting and stuff. And then like if something happens from behind and then they take care of it. I like that. That's my favorite kind of character.
While I'd be surprised if anyone I know ever watches the War of the Rohirrim movie, they think that making it an anime will make us love it because all the nerds have become weebs.
It's like I guess that kind of does distill the whole thing. That is what is being devalued, really, is support. People think that you have to be the protagonist and that the support, because the support is not in the spotlight all the time, they're not literally the main character, that they're pathetic and lame, and that they're not as good as or as important. Shine says it's funny how people that diss Arwen forget that the only reason Aragorn is able to save Gondor and become the king is because she argued for her father to reforge the sword of the king and deliver it. It fits with your idea of tanks and supports and relationships, yeah, and just like how people see them in games, right? I mean, you guys hear it all the time about how supports are easy and like, oh, you suck at the game, just play support. People always say that, right?
Now, but they don't realize that we nerds turn to anime because the writing tends to be better. Not because we like waifus that look like
it's a different kind of skill. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people overlook, is that they overlook that there are different types of skill in the world, and that not all skill falls in the realm of the traditionally masculine. And yet we try to make it seem like that's the case. At least feminism does. Tries to make it seem like all skill and all worth is in the realm of the masculine. And I think that's the biggest disservice to women, because the things that women are good at, the things that women are naturally skilled at and excel in, we have devalued those as skills.
They're depressurizing in the Martian atmosphere and are getting their eyes all bugged out. What Peter Jackson did with Arwen's character was give her agency in a very interesting way. She stands up.
Like, my favorite character, if I could be any character in any game or any anime or any written thing, I would be Luria from Granblue Fantasy. She's like my favorite archetype. I don't want to be Catalina. I don't want to be even like Cagliostro or like any of those characters. If I could be anyone, I would be Luria. I know I don't really act like her, and I don't really seem like that type of person, but that would be like my ideal. Frieren is your best archetype?
To her father, and
Frieren's is completely different.
Makes her own choice about how she'll live her life, which is an extremely common arc for female characters, even if it's handled poorly most of the time. But here it was done very well, since Elrond...
Could you explain it, because you know Granblue? It's like this, basically. So in Granblue, you have the main character. You're the main character. And the main character can be a guy or a girl. It doesn't matter. This is Luria. She's my favorite. She's so cute, and she comes out to help. Like she. And then she helps like during like the ultimate, basically. I think I'll show it. So you can see her. She's like buffing her in the back. She's like right here. She buffs her, and then she fights. She's my favorite character.
And was only pressuring her because he wanted what was best for his daughter. But Arwen rejects that not because she wants to exclusively focus on her own personal desires and have a "you go girl, smash the patriarchy" moment, but because she wants to stay and help the world be a better place. Yes, she also has the hope of...
She actually doesn't fight in the game. So like the actual like mobile game of Granblue, in the actual mobile game of Granblue, she doesn't actually fight. You can get a version of her that does kind of fight, but she can't attack, actually. She literally does not have an attack animation. Like, even if you put her into your team, she can't attack. She just has buffs only.
Getting what she wants, but she's denying the safety that her father wants for her.
And that's not to say I don't like all the other female characters. Like in the same like party, there's like Catalina. Like I love Catalina. Like she's so fucking cool. Like I love her archetype. Like I love her. I don't see anything wrong with this. Like obviously, like I love this and I think it's great. But I think it's annoying when it's the only thing available.
Risk for the greater good. and her relationship with her father remains healthy despite their tension and differing opinions. And I think the story is a healthy exploration of the female personal development, which I do think is different from male development in some crucial ways. I think that men and women mature differently in opposite directions, and this different reality often causes misunderstandings and a gender shock.
It's diversified versus diversity. Yeah, exactly. Where's the 6-star Leaflit episodes? Like, actually, did you know I was in a gacha game? Did you guys know that? The game's kind of dead though. This is the sprite, but I don't have a picture of the actual. Let me see if I can find it. I have this picture. It's not like the final version, but this is like what the banner looked like. But it was nicer. This is like a sketch. Apparently I was OP. Right, Julio? Apparently I was OP. Was that true? Was that true? Was I OP? I heard I was OP. I heard I was one of the most OP characters in the game. Yes, I was OP. Let's go.
It's like a culture shock, but with chromosomes. In my own experience, and from what I've read...
You sent me the DM? Can I show this? I can show this, right? Oh man, this is great. I think Leaflit is the strongest unit in the game right now. Leaflit banner gone. Gonna be hard for new players. Oh, you love to hear it. You love to hear it, chat. No, the Leaflit banner's gone. New players fucked. They're fucked, dude. What are you gonna do without a Leaflit? Leaflit 5-star. Oh no.
And observed, girls and boys have different tendencies where boys naturally
What's the name of the game? It's
challenge
dead.
what society
It's a
gives
dead
them
game.
from a young age, when they're young, rambunctious teens doing crazy crap and not caring at all about grades or what the adults tell them. And becoming a man is about realizing that it's not all about you, and that the meaning of your life comes from dedicating yourself to
Okay, you want to
something.
know why? You want to know why the Leaflit unit was OP in that game? Is because she gave double strike. And if you know, guys, if you know mobile games, the Leaflit character's ult gave double attack. So think about that for a second. think about the ult giving AoE double attack. Like, that's fucking crazy. Like,
greater and to caring about
so
something greater, and to find your place in society. It's why joining a sports team, the military, or a corporate career path with mentors and such becomes so important for the man, for the male journey. While girls tend to be more well-behaved and obedient.
It was really funny too because the conversation happened about the unit, and they were like, well, what kind of unit do you want? Like, do you want like DPS, like tank? And like, as a person who plays gacha games, like I've played a lot of gacha games, I immediately knew I wanted to be a support because support is always the most OP. Am I wrong, guys? Isn't support always the most critical units? I played Grand Blue. I know how OP S Zoe was and how much she just absolutely like ate she shit up the game for like fucking 4 years. So it's like support is where you want to be, you know?
Authority and social norms. They try to fit in more, and they try to live up to what they're supposed to be. Early on, as teen girls, they try to find their place. You see this in how they perform much better than boys.
Yeah,
in all
Waver was
educational
fucking
levels.
so
And
good.
girls tend to be more group-oriented
In
and more
FGO.
readily adopt the values given by their society. But as they grow older, they start getting confused on who they are. They have difficulty differentiating what psychologically belongs to them or what belongs to what others influenced upon them. They start having difficulty with always having to live up to society's expectations. They accepted all those social expectations like they were supposed to, but now, once they're older, it's getting too much. For women, maturing to adulthood means setting up boundaries around yourself more, learning to not feel pressured to take on everything that the group wants you to carry, knowing your limits, but also that it's okay to think about what you want. While male stories are about fighting a quest or a mission, doing your duty, or something greater than yourself. That's why female heroic stories are mostly about finding their identity and affirming themselves in society and saying, oh, here I am, and such. That's what the Barbie movie with Margot Robbie was about, and it's why it
I've never watched this. Have you guys seen the Barbie movie? I haven't seen it.
resonated so much with audiences, especially the female side of the demographic. They gave Ken a feminine development path as well, where he discovers that he's Kenuff, because that's the joke of the movie. The Kens are the women of Barbie Land. It resonated online with the guys, though, partly because of a joke, but also because postmodern society just isn't appealing for men to try to insert ourselves in anymore. But that's a conversation for another video. Anyway, the Barbie movie is an example of the female journey being poorly handled. That famous "it's hard to be a woman" speech at the end of the movie is the most ridiculous case of first world problems I've seen in a long
Oh my god,
time.
I haven't seen it.
And it really comes
I kind of want to watch
as
it.
just a childish rant. It's hard not to be that guy in the movie theater that stands up and yells, "Grow the fuck up, lady!" Although, I admit that I do think that this is why there's a fundamental misunderstanding between men and women, where both sides think the other is immature, because they go through the stages of development, of maturing, in a different order. Men often feel that women are immature and selfish for just now, in their late 20s, early 30s, focusing on what they personally want and trying to affirm themselves, assert themselves, etc. And women think that men are tyrannical playground bullies for emphasizing group responsibility while they're in their 30s, when they should be enjoying self-empowerment seminars or something gay like that. Both sides don't realize that they're developing in opposite directions. But maybe I'm mistaken about this and I'm just generalizing about my personal experience, who knows. But I do think that Arwen goes through one of the best depictions of this character arc of asserting herself and making her own choices that we've seen on screen. Because she's not choosing to assert herself for her own sake, but because she's choosing to do what she believes is the right thing. Arwen asserting herself works as a heroic journey that she's going on because her identity is that of being the one to stay and help the fight. That's who she is, that's who she chooses to be. And ironically, she helps movie Aragorn to go on the exact opposite journey, where he has to stop doing his own thing and step up and be what others expect him to be, what they need him to be. The movie did a great job in portraying this mythical couple as the quintessential man and woman, and how the push and pull forces interact. Since in a way, Aragorn helped to push her to make the right decision. But I describe Arwen's archetype as a type of forgotten femininity, and I say that she displays the most accessible archetype for a young woman because Arwen is the good princess. Her power is derived from a quasi-paradoxical sense of simultaneous humility and self-worth. She is humble about what she wants, since she wants to be with a mortal man and to risk it all to help the fight against evil. But Arwen understands the incredible value of what she is, and she doesn't treat herself as something cheap to be spent on just anything or anyone. While the woman of our era is the exact opposite. She is prideful about her ambitions and seeks to obtain power for herself, but to obtain that, she submits herself to an all-consuming machine to be a cheap, disposable cog. Arwen understands her value.
Fucking hit the nail on the head. 100% true.
Which is why she expects her man to become the good king, but she is still willing to give up her immortality for love. She's humble and modest about her ambitions, since she's willing to submit herself to the immortality of her man, but she understands her worth as a person and only submits to a worthy authority that will cherish her. In my webcomic, The Fractal Fables, I actually try exploring all these archetypes, and I pit them against each other. If you guys are curious about it, you can click on the link in the description and read it for free. The episodes of the first season are coming out. If you guys like it enough, there will be a second one. Just give it a try, it costs nothing. I'd also like to announce that our upcoming Skyrim animation is done. We're just waiting for Ivan to do the music for the soundtrack. Also, I'll be going on a trip for a few months, but my friend Mr. Bird, whom you might have met in the Evangelion podcast, might come on here.
Leaflit manga when? I need to write a story for it. Listen, I haven't had time. There's a web novel. Do you know the web novel? Do you know about the web novel, Alicia? We have a web novel, but it's not done yet.
As a guest video essayist.
Yeah, you've seen the art from it? The art from the web novel is so good. It's all by Chris too. This is my favorite one. I love this one. This is my favorite from the web novel. It's so cute. I love fucking Firefly eating the fucking burger. Like everyone's having like really fancy food and she's like, yeah, burger. I'm eating a burger. She's my favorite, man. I love her. And then I really like this one too with Rin. And then this is just like a really cool, like I love this shot of the freaking mech, and then the party facing off against the mech. I love that. The amount of armor break, dude. Dude, it's because what's her name is crazy, dude. She's crazy. Like this girl fucked up Helen like so bad. Like Spica, that was her name, Spica. It's cool. This like takes place in the world of the tabletop RPG, by the way. If you're interested in that. The mech is so huge, yeah, it's called an Armate. It's basically like a magic mech. It's a golem. They're golems. They're giant. They're pilotable golems, basically.
Make a video for you guys to keep you company while I'm gone. And I'm also not the one editing this video, and I won't be editing the next ones either, since, I'll be traveling. And with that, I end this video. I'd like to thank my patrons who make everything possible, and thank you all for listening to my ramblings. Have a good day, my friends.
That was a pretty good video. Thank you so much. Oh man, this is so old. Bro. This is so old, Julio. There. 5-star support. There's a 5-star support leaflet right there. Water type support. Isn't that cute? #1 banner. OP. Oh my god, I just know this. Dude, dude, Julio, I just know this, that the picture that they picked is the freaking heart goes out to you one. Oh my god, oh my god, Julio.